The billion-shilling lie. Prose adaptation poetic, raw, factual. Every scandal begins with a promise. Some with greed, others with hope. The Arror and Kimwarer Dam projects began with the sound of rain, a dream that water would finally find its way to the dry valleys of Elgeyo-Marakwet. Two mighty dams were promised, carved into the green hills, their waters feeding thousands of farms, ending the droughts that had punished the land for generations. It was sold as a vision of transformation, part of Kenya's Grand Vision 2030. The cost? 63 billion shillings. Expensive, yes, but in a country where thirst is constant, hope is priceless. Contracts were signed. Smiles flashed before cameras. Politicians called it progress. But beneath the speeches, something darker began to flow. Not water, but money. The dream that sold hope. The plan sounded perfect on paper. The dams would be built by CMC di Ravenna, an Italian company with a reputation for big infrastructure. Funding would come from Italian banks, secured by the Kenyan taxpayer. But as billions were approved and released, nobody seemed to notice or care that the contractor was already drowning in debt back in Italy. Bankrupt, yet still entrusted with billions. Under the watch of Treasury CS Henry Rotich, money flowed. Mobilization, feasibility studies, consultancy, beautiful bureaucratic words that hid the truth. Over 71 billion was paid before a single brick was laid. No cement, no dam, only documents and debt. The money that vanished. Before the water. When investigators began following the money, the trail twisted through Europe from Nairobi to Rome. Through offshore accounts, fake invoices, and ghost companies. Payments were made for insurance policies that didn't exist, for consultancy services that no one could trace, for equipment that never arrived. By the time the smoke cleared, billions had evaporated into the air just like the rivers that were supposed to be dammed. In 2019, the DCI and DPP finally acted. Rotich, PS Kamauthuge, and top officials from the Treasury and the Kerio Valley Development Authority were arrested. They faced charges of fraud, abuse of office, and conspiracy to defraud the government. But by then, the money and the faith of an entire nation was gone. The dams that exist only on paper. Go to Arror. Go to Kimwarer. All you'll find are trees, grass, and silence. No construction sites, no heavy machinery, no workers, just a landscape of broken promises. Even the World Bank, which once considered joining the project, quietly backed away its reports whispering of inflated costs and unviable designs. In 2019, President Uhuru Kenyatta cancelled the Kimwarer project altogether, calling it a wasteful fantasy. Arror, he said, could be redesigned at a fraction of the cost. It never was. So the dams became symbols not of hope, but of betrayal. The politics of blame. When the scandal exploded, so did the politics. Deputy President William Ruto claimed it was all a witch hunt and attack aimed at him. He laughed off the figures, saying, "Only 7 billion has been lost, not 21. Even Jesus couldn't build a dam with 7 billion. The nation laughed too, but bitterly. Because it wasn't funny. That single line became the anthem of a people too used to theft to even feel anger anymore. Years later, the courts cleared Rotich and his co-accused. The evidence, the judges said, was insufficient. Witnesses had vanished. Files had gone missing. The verdict landed like a whisper in a storm. No one guilty, no one accountable, and the dams, still invisible. The real cost. The debt remains heavy, real, unforgiving. Kenya still pays interest on the loans. Every taxpayer still bleeds a few shillings each day for water that never flowed. The farmers still pray for rain. The rivers still dry up. And the promises still echo through the valleys, promises that were never meant to be kept. It's not just about stolen billions. It's about stolen futures. Because when justice dies quietly, corruption becomes culture. And culture becomes identity. The lie that became normal. The Arror and Kimwarer scandal was not unique. It was a chapter in a very old Kenyan story, a story written in ink made of greed. Goldenberg, Anglo Leasing, NYS, Kemsa, different names, same plot. Hope is dangled like bait. Loans are taken, contracts are signed, money disappears. And then, we laugh, we meme, we move on. The billion-shilling lie has become our national religion. The Arror and Kimwarer dams were meant to bring water. Instead, they brought debt, shame, and silence. And somewhere in the hills of Elgeyo-Marakwet, a farmer still looks at the sky waiting not for rain, but for justice. Because in Kenya, corruption doesn't hide in the shadows. It sits in the front row dressed in a suit, smiling for the cameras. This is True Crime Kenya, where the truth is public and still ignored.